Welcome to the Athlete Insights Podcast, hosted by Yash Pad Day, a podcast focused on letting athletes tell their journeys in their sport. This podcast is presented by Boxed Water. Boxed water is better.
Welcome into another episode of the Athlete Insights Podcast. Today I've got my guest, Shawn Sullivan. He's the Executive Director of Running USA. So Shawn, appreciate you taking the time. And I know it's like you said off camera, it was a late flight out of Indy for you, or early flight out of Indy for you. It's been a late night so far, a big, long day. So appreciate you taking the time, man.
Glad to be here.
And so with the podcast, I always like to go to the beginning of every guest journey and their process. So can you talk about when you think about sport and you've been around sport your whole career from my research for what I've seen is when you think about sport, when did you first fall in love with sport? What was that age? When did you first really fall in love with sport overall?
Well, yeah, I really appreciate you having me again, Yash. I mean,
Yeah,
and love your content, and thanks for sharing
I
all of
appreciate it.
the knowledge you have, but also your guest knowledge, and
Yeah.
uh, honored to join that guest list. And also, congrats on your doctorate. That's pretty cool stuff.
Oh, thank you so
Um,
much. Yeah, yeah, no, it's cool.
yeah, for me, I was fortunate to grow up in a home that really revolved around sport. My dad was a coach, basketball coach, track coach, and my family was cousins. Everybody was either a sports fan or was taking part in sport,
hmm
going to practices with my dad and him allowing me to play with the big kids, if you will, when I was little. I mean, I think just being surrounded by it really developed my passion for competition, teammates, and eventually provided a kind of a pathway to college, and then at that point it was like, okay, maybe there's a career out there perhaps in some form or fashion. So yeah, I started out really young. I think the probably the biggest catalyst is just the good fortune of me having amazing coaches in high school
Mm,
in all sports, but for
yeah,
me to earn a scholarship to run at UIC, which my alma mater, and be a distance runner there, um, that was meaningful to go to Chicago, live in a big market,
hmm
immerse myself in journalism.
yeah,
I was the sports editor of our daily newspaper.
yeah,
As a young man, which was a really cool experience. So diving into that was really neat. I had internships at TV stations, an arena football team, in
hmm
our athletic department at UIC. So all those things I think provided the foundation for me to continue on in a career as well.
Gotcha. And you said you dived into journalism at the college level at UIC. I was a journalism major at Ball State where we had connected.
Yep.
I'm big into journalism, local journalism, all that good stuff, and sports journalism as a whole. But I had a broadcast journalism program in high school that really inspired me to jump into the
Hmm.
journalistic side. Did you have that? Was it just the transition in journalism? Was it at the college level? Did you have anything at the high school level to kind of get you into that realm? Kind of how did that come about?
I did not like a day to day, if you will. I
Okay.
mean, I think I was a sports junkie of
Yeah.
sports media.
Yeah.
When I'm so old, yes, like Sports Center was really becoming a cultural phenomenon in the
Uh,
90s when I was in high school. So that was kind of oh my gosh, like how cool would it be to be on Sports Center?
yeah.
We had local newspapers in
Mhm.
Kankakee, Illinois.
Um,
My little league coach was the sports editor of the local newspaper. So
oh,
I was just kind of around it,
yeah.
and I just always thought it was cool to pick up the newspaper and see my coach's name on a byline.
hmm
Um, and then, you know, being in the Chicago market,
Yeah.
seeing a Chicago Tribune and Chicago Sun Times,
Yeah.
turning on ESPN, and seeing like the sports reporters. There was
Yeah.
an old school show on cable in Chicago, Sports Channel.
Yeah.
Um, I'm forgetting the name of it. Maybe it wasn't the sports reporters, but it was like this Rick Tallender and some other olds, Bill Joust, this Hall of Fame
Mm.
sports writer in the Chicago
Okay.
area, and it was in this little studio, and they were smoking, and there was like this light, and like I just and all of that just sounded really neat. So I think those were the kind of the points or the examples that I found that were interesting.
Yeah. No, and WGN, that broadcast network out there in Chicago, does a great job. I mean, when I watched, I had a lot of friends when I was at Ball State that were Cubbies fans out of
Mm.
Chicago. So we'd watch WGN baseball and those
Well,
networks from Ball State.
I,
So it was,
I apologize to the Cubs fans. I'm sorry that they're Cubs fans as a White Sox fan, but I totally
uh,
get it. Totally
yeah.
understand.
I know the rivalry there. I had several friends that too were White Sox fans, and they'd get into it when we were there. So, that's interesting there. And you get into, you said an SID role or assistant SID role at UIC, Chicago. You're working for an arena football team, and then you become the assistant AD back at UIC, kind of transitioning your career. Can you talk about the lessons that you took away from your time in college at UIC, and then your time as a professional at UIC?
Sure. I think I just was fortunate to be around really good people, number one, at UIC, whether they were in the athletic department, coaches,
Yep.
uh, the athletic department staff, all of them were, focused on developing humans,
Yep.
certainly athletes, but just people. I
Yep.
also think it was a really big bonus for me to be in a huge market like Chicago. There are just
Mhm.
more opportunities in a city, in my opinion, in that kind of sports media realm. And if you combine all those things and with, I think, an ambition or at least an interest in advocating for myself, like, hey, how can I get involved instead
Yep.
of sitting on the sidelines? I think all those things came together. And when you can raise your hand and say, can I try that? Can I
Mhm.
help there? And
Yeah.
you can deliver,
Hmm.
that goes a long way.
Yeah.
For the students who might be listening, I mean, we're certainly in an era where I think probably if the data was to be distilled, there are there's way more supply than demand for young sport management majors right now. And
Yeah.
the more you can raise your hand and show value and be a good colleague and become indispensable,
Yeah.
you're going to have a better time. So I think those were some of the lessons that I was taught. I think one thing I take away from a mentor of mine, Mike Polisky, was during an interview process um, for an internship. I happened to get a few minutes with him, and I can remember him asking me a question about, hey, why do you have interest in this internship with the Chicago Rush? We're
Mhm.
basically an expansion arena football franchise with,
Yeah.
we're just getting underway. And I said, well, I think I just want to learn more about sports and make connections.
Yeah.
And he kind of said, well, I don't think we want you if you want to make connections. That's not why you're here. We want our folks to buy into the mission of our organization. We want to win
Yeah.
games on the field. We want to provide our fans great experiences. We want our owners to see return on their investment.
Yeah.
That's what you're here to do if you get this job. And then if you do all those things, we will become your network and help you moving forward in your career. And that was a really, I think, tipping point moment for me to
Mm.
really realize, like, listen, networking is key. It is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
However, the best networking will always be, can you really contribute and perform in the role that you have? Because
Yeah.
really, those people are going to see you do it best. They will always become your best networking tool.
Yeah. Your skills and your assets are really what help you in terms of the networking. But networking is so key. And I think that's the thing that, I've tried to delve into my sport management classes I teach as well as, develop a skill that makes you indispensable, then the networking will happen instead of trying to network, early on and then figure that out. So, um,
True.
that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Then you get to, so we'll move into now. You get to Ball State, and you kind of transition from more of a communications SID role to marketing and fan engagement, in that role at Ball State. Can you talk about that transition and kind of what you took away being in marketing and fan engagement, and transitioning from that communications role?
Sure. Well, I think it really started probably in my time at Northwestern.
Mm.
Spent a couple of years there as director of marketing
Yeah.
and really worked with our men's basketball program specifically. And I
Uh,
think the Northwestern experience, what that provided to me was, hey, this marketing and revenue generation, ticket sales,
mm.
those concepts
Yeah.
really need the PR
Yeah.
stitch to
Yeah.
make those things come together, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
so um, I think coming to Ball State in that time frame, those were kind of critical lessons for me to try and contribute those
Mm.
values to our staff.
Yeah.
As a kind of a middle manager type when I first arrived, and spending almost 9 years there,
Mm.
really having great bosses and provided great opportunities to lead different teams and eventually elevate to our executive team there to try and share those values of can you bring that marketing mix that I'm sure you're teaching in some of your
Yeah.
courses,
Yeah.
which I think initially you kind of learn as the four P's, but eventually they kind of become the five P's when
Yeah.
public relations is added to it. And
Yep.
it's such an important part. And it goes back to relationship building and
Hmm.
ensuring that when you need a story written or you want to place a story in and around maybe a marketing campaign or take a sales launch or a fundraising initiative, that all those P's can kind of work in tandem for success.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it was the four P's. I laugh because I that's legit what I've been talking to my students about in class. So
Yep.
it's great, and we'll add the fifth P that now I can introduce as well. So it's great that you mentioned that fifth P in public relations. It's so
Hmm.
key to, like you said, bring everything together and kind of make it whole. And you know, you you were most recently, and we'll talk about, and I want to talk about your consulting voice work that you do as well. But before that, you most recently were the associate commissioner for branding and messaging for the Horizon League, and obviously working at a university, you work at UIC, Northwestern, Ball State, is can be a little different than working in a conference office.
Yeah,
You talk about those differences of working at a university or working at a school and kind of interacting with student athletes versus being at a conference office, kind of some of the differences that are there in that regard.
for sure. I think when you're on campus, you're so you're so focused on the student athlete
Hmm.
experience for sure. You're
Hmm.
trying to ensure that each of the programs has as much as a department can give them in order to succeed on and off the field.
Yeah.
Um, you have these in Ball State's case, 450
Hmm.
athletes across 18, 19 sports,
Yeah.
um, and then from an event standpoint, you become an event management firm, right? You're putting on 150 home events
Yeah.
across these 18 sports. And
Yeah.
so you combine all those, just such a heavy
Load.
load
Yeah.
to execute and perform and try to live up to the goals that you've created as a department or as a
Hmm.
program or a university. You're trying to fit into this strategic plan,
Yeah.
and that has its own energy and vibe and really cool experience to it.
Yeah.
Now, when you get to the league office side, it's kind of the same stuff, except you're kind of advocating on behalf of the membership. You're trying to
Mm.
listen to the athletes that are on campus, sure,
Yeah.
but in a league office, you're probably more connected to support staffs in each
Yeah.
of our 11 member institutions, as was the case with the Horizon League.
Yeah.
I'm interacting more with athletic directors and presidents and chancellors.
Mm.
You're trying to create advocacy up and down in
Yeah.
the and right in this world, this NCAA governance structure.
Yeah.
You're I would have never thought 15 years ago I'd spend time uh, dealing with lobbyists or
Mm. Yeah.
Congress, and
Yeah.
here we are trying to either prep our presidents, ADs, or put our commissioner in the best spot to
Mhm.
advocate for the Horizon League, mid-major sports as a whole,
Yeah.
working with, we had I think like, here's a great example of the uniqueness of this, right?
Hmm.
We're in this dynamic area of college sports.
Yeah.
You've got all this federal legislation talk. You have the NIL
Yep.
issues. You've got eligibility issues, transfer, you name it.
Yeah.
It's happening, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And here we have a president at Youngstown State University who was a United States congressman who has this very unique pathway
Hmm.
to assist in this process
Yeah.
for the Horizon League. And it's just not something I would have envisioned 15 years ago working in college sports. So,
Yeah.
um, but on the other hand, we do conduct championships. So,
Yeah.
um, that was certainly part of the role for me, heading up our indoor and outdoor track and field championships, our cross country championships,
Okay.
ensuring that those championships go off without a hitch
Yeah.
from A to Z.
Yep.
We do that from the league office standpoint. And it really, the pinnacle event is the Barbasol Horizon League basketball championships in
Yeah.
Indianapolis,
Yeah.
which is kind of our centerpiece, which is a lot of work for us, but
Yeah.
always done in a really good manner. So I loved working in the league office.
No, and it's great to kind of get that perspective for viewers and students even that are paying attention because you get into the university mindset of working there and interact with the student athletes, but like you get so many different experiences being in a league office and being in a league setting and yeah, it's wild like you said how in 15 years college athletics has just changed and with NIL and like you said lobbyists and all these different things, transfer portal, all these different things are now really impacted that piece as well. And getting to kind of your now the your company or your consulting work that you're doing with Voice for Good. Can you talk about how that started and kind of your experiences with that and where you're at with that?
Hmm. Well, it kind of goes back to where we started, Yash. I think when we talked about going to Chicago for college and
Mhm.
wanting to be a member of the media, that's kind of
Yeah.
that that dream, if you will,
Yeah.
was it ended up being I think a fork in the road early in my college career. And it was sometimes you take internships to find out what you want to do. And
Yep.
sometimes internships turn into opportunities to tell you that's not exactly what I want to do. And I think that was for me having a really cool internship at a TV station in Chicago, which provided really neat experiences for me. It
Yeah.
also taught me I didn't want to do that forever. I didn't enjoy, although it was great going into Cubs and White Sox locker rooms and being behind the camera and
Yeah.
asking some questions. It was also like, do I really want to ask questions of these guys that don't really want to answer them for the rest of my life? And
Yeah.
there are talented people that do that well, but I didn't think that was going to be me. And
Mm.
so as I pivoted out of media and more onto the property side,
Yeah.
there was still this desire to do some sort of broadcasting.
Yeah.
And um, when I go back to raising my hand, that was kind of the situation at UIC, which was, hey, can somebody announce this baseball game or this soccer match? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to try it. Like maybe this
Yeah.
could be what I do.
Yeah.
And so that's where it started. I raised my hand and did you name it at UIC, gymnastics, baseball, women's hoops, soccer. I said I'll do it, softball. And so
Nice.
from there it evolved to um, road racing
Mm.
and doing 5Ks and
Yeah.
then doing arena football.
Okay.
Ended up getting to do some backup work for the Chicago Fire,
Yeah.
um, the Chicago Red Stars, and their
Yeah.
first when they first joined at that time WPS Women's Professional Soccer.
Yeah.
I worked for the Chicago Sky as an MC and a backup PA guy,
Mm.
and it just kind of snowballed from there. Um, and now having 25 years of experience under my belt, have a really great privilege of serving as PA announcer for the Indiana Pacers and
All right.
Indiana Fever and a host of other large events like the Chicago Marathon
Yeah.
and the Association of Pickleball Professionals is out here. What I'm doing now in
Yeah.
Arizona, travel around with that terrific tour, serving as one of our in-venue hosts for that event. And
Nice.
in 2020, we had a little extra time on our hands in that pandemic. and I'd always wanted to create an entrepreneurial endeavor, and that's what I did. I created what's known as the Voice for Good, serves as the umbrella organization for my voice work and some consulting that I do.
Yep.
And I'm a mental health advocate. I was the recipient um, of much needed mental health therapy,
Mm.
and it really became a pivotal moment in my life to get that assistance, but also have colleagues and bosses who said, "Hey, we're going to help you here." And
Yeah.
um, I feel like that is so important, especially for men in
Yeah.
sports business. Sometimes we get a little overwhelmed, but we don't raise our hand to ask for help. And so that's what I've tried to use my voice work in conjunction with mental health support. So
Yeah.
that becomes the voice for good. And anytime I get paid for voice work, I contribute a portion of that back to mental health support agencies.
That's so great to hear, and especially right now in the month of November, which is actually Men's Mental
Yeah,
Health Awareness Month, right? So it's great to hear that and what you're doing, and you're using exactly as you're saying, you're using the voice for good and for change in terms of mental health and what you believe in. So it's great to see that, my friend, and that
yeah,
process. And before I end every podcast, really, I started this as a way to inspire young people, young athletes to kind of see, okay, what do I need to do to get to the level of where some of my guests are and some of my processes are. So I always ask my guests this last question is if you're in a room with young people today who want to get into sport journalism
hmm.
or in that realm, what is one piece of advice? What is one skill that they should master or learn, or one piece of advice that you would impart on them?
Yeah. I don't know if I have one, Yash, but that's such a great question. I think for me, and unfortunately, I think this kind of group of young people coming out of school over the last couple of years is sometimes can get a bad rap for
Yeah,
whatever reason, right? Like, oh, these young kids, they don't. I,
yeah. No, I
I
see
don't
what you
feel that.
mean.
I don't feel that way. I've hired a number of young professionals over the last few years, and
Yeah. Mhm.
um, you know, almost to a T, they're tremendous. So um, I don't feel that way. But what I would remind those folks is, um, you know, they there's a couple things. Follow up,
Mhm.
read, be well read.
Mhm.
Don't just assume that you took these courses and you're ready. Go out and ask questions of professionals,
Yep.
take part in some informational interviews,
Mhm.
um, perhaps find a committee to be on or a volunteer organization to really dive into something,
Yep.
um, and become a good writer.
Yeah.
That is to me is the one that when I do see this generation that lacks the ability to properly communicate, whether it's via a text message, an email, or a handwritten note.
Yep.
That to me is the one that is kind of getting lost in this, um, as our young folks are coming out of these sport management programs. So
Mhm.
um, find a way to stand out in that realm, because if you're relying on text message to communicate, there are some folks who do not
Yeah.
well. So that I think it's just becoming well-rounded at the end of the day. That's probably a simpler way to put it.
Yep.
But if you can be well read, if you can write well, there's
Yep.
probably going to be a place for you in an organization. And I'd also leave you with this. I wish, when I was young, I was so worried about, like, how do I impress to advance my career? How I want
Mhm.
to I want to find this new title, or how do I get over there?
Yeah.
Be present. you
Yeah.
know Look at your job description, talk to your boss, perform in the present. I promise that if you can focus in on that, things will
I love
take
it.
care of themselves. Like, I think sometimes, I know I did, you kind of get ahead of yourself, and um, enjoy the moment, be
Yep.
present.
Yep.
Um, I try to do a handful of things every day,
Yep.
and I would encourage other folks to maybe think about these. And I know I have a good day if I do these things. If I'm
Mhm.
active, but for me, it's running.
Yep.
If I can run or work out,
Yep.
that I'm going to do well. If I
Mhm.
meditate, that
Mm.
is really important to what I do.
Yeah.
Journal, if I can journal, that's important.
Yeah.
Um, if I can sleep well and put
Yeah.
myself in a good position. That's tough because I have a 10-month-old, but
Mm.
if I can put my environment in a place where I set the conditions for good sleep,
Yeah.
and then if I read. Those five things. If I can do all those every day, like I I function pretty optimally.
Yeah. No, that's such good advice. As far like and you know, with living in the present, I will echo that as well because I think so many young people now think about, well, I want to get to this spot, I want to get to this spot, but they don't,
Yeah,
and they're
it's
not grateful
natural.
for where they are today. And you got to
Yeah,
be present and grateful for where you are today to get to that level of where you want to get to. And so it's so crucial. I love how you imparted that is just staying in the present and enjoying the present. Because if you do, like you said, then you'll develop the skills needed to get to where you want to go. And
yeah,
I've realized like sometimes, you got to pivot your goals and pivot the things and everything. Like where you want to go might not be the best. Where you think you want to go might not be the best situation for you, right? Where you are might be where the best situation and the thing in hand is. So,
yeah. Things
great.
change. You're right. I mean, and many times it's factors outside your control. I mean, I'm like I have the best wife in the world. She's
Mm,
also in sports business, and you
yeah,
know, her career is just as important as mine. So
yeah,
one of our paths could take us somewhere that we didn't envision. So
yeah,
I think you never know. You never know what forks in the road are going to arise. So all
yeah.
you can do is put yourself in the best position possible for um, the next step.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. And I like everything, the wisdom that you've imparted as well. So, but that's all the time we have for this episode of Athlete Insights. Appreciate Shawn Sullivan for coming on. I know it's been, like I said, it's been a long day for you. And so, uh, appreciate you taking the time out of the day to come on and support.
It's my pleasure. If any of those students are checking this out, and if I can assist, connect with me on LinkedIn,
Yep.
email sks@thevoiceforgood.com. I'm happy to look over cover letters, resumes, whatever. Here to help.
Nice. And I'll have Shawn's social media linked as well on the video. So I'm sure LinkedIn as well, but Instagram and
Okay.
social media as well. I'll have your stuff linked on the video and in the description. I'll have you on spot. We'll have it on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and you can follow me as well, my podcast, through those realms as well. But once again, Shawn, appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you next time.